What is the most iconic game of all time? The answer depends on who you ask. Is it a Nintendo property, the likes of Mario or the Legend of Zelda games? Well, to me, it's Halo. To understand why Halo is so important, we must first look at what makes it so successful. The game has had an interesting development story, first being planned as a real-time strategy before becoming the arena shooter we all love. Releasing November 15, 2001, Halo came out swinging, pulling all their FPS titles out of the water with its intuitive controller scheme, proving that FPS games on console could be taken seriously. Much of these control schemes still being used today, such as having a dedicated button for melee, throwing grenades, and switching between primary and secondary weapons. Halo was more than confident to stand its ground. At the time, games released around that of Halo's release date weren't received as well as in comparison. Games such as the original Counter-Strike, ported to Xbox, Perfect Dark, or Time Splitters. Not that any of these titles were bad, in fact they're some of my favorites, it's just none of them really stood a chance. Halo was a technical marvel at the time, only really comparable to the first Half-Life. The story starts off going from 1 to 100 real damn quick, never really giving you a break from the action. In doing this, you never get boring exposition in between firefights, saving those great story beats for you to watch. You are shown the story, not told. You might think that the first-person shooter where you are a demon to these fanatical religious aliens might get boring after a while, but no. Halo Sandbox is able to keep you interested the whole time, giving the player a new toy every level. The first time you're introduced to the sniper or the scorpion, for example. Two very different parts of the sandbox given to you in two very different locations. One being found in a more open-ended second level, and the tank in the snowy environment of the control center. You might think that you've seen everything Halo has to offer once you reach the second half of the game. However, pulling a total 180 harder than Uncharted, you are introduced to a whole new enemy type, the Flood. The Flood effectively turned the game into a sci-fi body horror, basically space zombies resulting from some sort of space fungus. You now have to learn how this new faction fights, because Halo doesn't take the easy way out. This new enemy type has a totally different AI. They fight in ways that the player hasn't seen. Instead of trying to outmaneuver the player, they will attempt to completely overrun you. The Flood charge headfirst at you in a flurry of disgusting claw attacks while taking advantage of whatever weapons the host was using at the time. In later levels, you have to fight both these awful creatures as well as the aliens you have come to love killing, further creating interesting combat encounters as you backtrack through where the story began to detonate your ship to destroy the Halo. Now you may be asking yourself, sure, the story is cool or whatever if you're into the whole power fantasy thing. What if I'm not a fan of that kind of game? What makes it so special? Well, as mentioned before, Halo is responsible for the adoption of many other games' control setup, still seen today in games such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Titanfall, Left 4 Dead, and Killing Floor. Halo is also a pioneered online multiplayer for consoles. Not saying that I was the first to do it, that title belongs to Sega. However, it was Combat Evolved that made it catch on. Personally, I don't think online play for consoles would be the same as it is today without Halo. It's hard to say for sure, but ignoring this fact is just ignorant. Whether you like the Halo series or not, you cannot say that it did not change the gaming landscape. To put it in perspective a little bit, Halo Combat Evolved was able to seamlessly combine boots on the ground combat and vehicular combat in the online PvP, a feat that to this day, 20 years later, still isn't as common as you may think with AAA games released. Halo is important, a really big deal. There is a reason that games touted as Halo killers no longer exist, all thanks to Combat Evolved.